was invited. I gained 35 pounds in prison because they had a crooked guard on the payroll, and he would smuggle in, pork loin and white wine for the marsala sauce and mushrooms and tomatoes and pasta, and we feasted every single night. But I ate with the Italians in the cafeteria. We had dinners in their cells in the evenings. I went to all of their parties, their birthday celebrations. I even went to the mafia Super Bowl party, of all things. They were great. And The funny thing is, there's kind of a postscript to this. So this guy, he became my best friend in the prison, and still is one of my best friends today. We talk all the time. So is he
out?
He's out.
Yep, good.
Well, that's what the story's about. He had gotten triple life without parole for a first-time non-violent drug offense. And so Congress passed the Second Chance Act, I think is what it was called. And I'm reading the paper. I mean, I'm sitting in his cell and I'm reading the paper. And I said, buddy, have you read this article? And he said, no. I said, this is about you. It's saying that you're eligible for this new federal program. And he said, I'm not smart enough to even figure out how to do something like that. I said, I'll write the appeal. So I wrote his appeal. I sent it to the Justice Department, and I was released from the prison just a couple of weeks later. I got out in February. His mother calls me in August, and she's crying. And I said, oh my God, what happened to Mark? And she said, no, it's good news. They're letting him go. And I said, they're letting him go? And she said, the appeal you wrote, he won.
Wow.
I was like, oh my God. He told me when he got out that he owes me his life. And I said, nonsense. I said, you got screwed. And all you needed was for things to come together at the right time for the Justice Department to acknowledge that you got screwed. And as funny as it sounds, he applied for a real estate license. And if you're a convicted felon, you can't have a real estate license. So he wrote to the governor and he said, listen, I got screwed and Obama gave me a commutation and I'm a good guy and, nonviolent and all this stuff. Can I have a real estate license? And the governor gave it to him. And now he is the #1 selling real estate agent at the Jersey Shore.
Isn't that great?
Lives in a stunning house, tons of friends. He's just an awesome guy.
Awesome. Yeah. That's so awesome. I love to hear things like that.
Yeah, good guy.
Unbelievable. The timing, like you said, but if you did not know him and if you did not read that, he might still be there today.
There were 8 people in his conspiracy. He was the only one who left the conspiracy. He said, this drug thing is not for me. I quit. And he quit. He was the only one that did. And everybody got arrested by the Drug Enforcement Administration. And they offered everybody deals. And he said, I'm not a rat. I can't rat people out. And so he didn't take the deal, not knowing that everybody else took the deal. So the other 7 guys got 5.5 years, and he got triple life without parole. Yeah.
My God, you just must feel like your life is totally over.
Yeah.
I bet he's extremely grateful every day.
It's a new life, and I'm so happy for him.
Yeah, great story.
He didn't deserve that treatment.
Right. Well, that's really, thank you so much for sharing all this with us. Now we're going to try to get back to the UFO topic somehow. And but this is all really fascinating. So I just someone sent me a friend of basically the show here, and also a mutual friend of Chris Lato.
Yeah.
He sent me this thing about this guy talking about government secrets, and it had to do with Neil deGrasse Tyson and 2 other people there in an interview. And the guy basically said that, hey, the government leaks things all the time. That's how they get funding.
Constantly.
So, and so then the question came up, well, why aren't they leaking about the crash retrievals or the UFOs or things like that. So I guess I have to ask you, what is your thoughts about that
I,
whole thing?
I actually have thought about that. And, having been in the CIA for 15 years and having been read into special compartmented programs, I can only conclude that these things are so compartmentalized, so stovepiped, that there are too few people who actually are read into the program to leak it.
Mm.
This is how torture didn't leak for so long. In the beginning, there were only 16 people in the entire federal government who knew about the torture program. Well, later on, it was hundreds of people. There were
Wow.
dozens that were actually
I
carrying
mean,
out the torture.
that's really, I mean, it just hit me. That's so baffling that there's that few people. I mentioned earlier about meeting with the two gentlemen, retired FBI and retired CIA.
Right.
And we got into 9/11,
Yeah.
talking to the FBI, and he talked about, yes, everything is stovepiped,
Yeah.
and that's why the information was protected and not enough people. There's not enough
Well,
connections.
that's a very nice way to put it. The truth is that the CIA and the FBI have hated each other since 1947, when the CIA was created. And so the CIA knew that the hijackers were in the United States and didn't tell the FBI because the CIA wanted to make a run at them and try to recruit them. The FBI knew that there were hijackers who were trying to get into the United States, but didn't tell the CIA that they knew the identities of the hijackers. And so because they refused to cooperate, to the point where the CIA and FBI computer systems were not even compatible, that's why 9/11 happened.
Yeah. And you came in right about that time, right?
Oh no, I was already a senior officer by 9/11.
Now, I thought you mentioned in the interview that we did that they were like getting ready to throw money into all types, anything at
After
that
9/11.
after 9/11.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
got it.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I had an idea for an operation just a couple of weeks after 9/11, a counterterrorism operation. So I went up to the director of the Counterterrorism Center, Ambassador Kofor Black, and I said, Kofor, I've got an operation that I want to pass by you. And he put up his hands and he said, whatever it is, just do it. I have
Crazy.
so much money, I can't possibly spend it all. And so I was on the next plane.
That's amazing. That's amazing. But wow. So do you think this is just from being, involved? I know that there was no UFO, I know the CIA is like foreign, it's all
Yeah,
foreign.
foreign intelligence,
And then FBI is, American,
domestic, law
basically
enforcement.
domestic,
Right.
yes. But um, there wouldn't be any case where the CIA would be involved with any type of,
Well, it's
unless
possible. It's
this.
possible.
Now I'm going to run a scenario by you, like to say if perhaps, like David Grush mentioned, he thinks there is crashed UFOs,
Yeah.
reverse engineering. Say
That would be it.
that would be it.
Yeah.
If they could develop
The-
something that could be dangerous to us
Yeah,
somehow.
the CIA would never have the lead on something like that. DARPA would have the lead.
Right.
They would bring in CIA and maybe one or two other agencies, probably DoD agencies, to come in and reverse engineer something like that. But yeah, the CIA would never have the lead. I used to work for this deputy director of the CIA, good guy, but he always used to have this mantra. He would always say, the job of the CIA is to recruit spies to steal secrets. And I used to think, yeah, that's technically true, but we also, fly around the world and murder people and overthrow governments, and it's not just recruiting spies to steal secrets, although I get the sentiment.
Yeah.
But
I mean, I can't even understand how something like that works. Where that, who decides what is, we have to watch this country, we have to watch that country, this person may take over, that may fall, we have to get someone in there. And, I mean, who can figure all this stuff out in such a
Well, and
crazy world?
that's why it fails so often.
Yeah.
And one of the downsides too, downsides to doing proactive operations like that, they're called covert action programs, is that, and I think this is probably human nature, but the CIA always underestimates the level of blowback. Blowback are the unintended consequences for carrying out an operation. So, for example, I was the note taker in a principals committee meeting the night before we invaded Iraq. And the principals are the president, the vice president, secretary of state, secretary of defense, national security advisor, director of the CIA, and the SINCSENT, the commander in chief of the Central Command. So my job was to sit silently behind the CIA director and just take notes. One of the senior officials from the White House said at the end of the meeting, like, he couldn't wait for tomorrow because tomorrow we're going to invade Iraq. And he said, as soon as we cross that border, they're going to throw flowers at us. And I said to the director afterwards, do these people know nothing about the Middle East? Do they know nothing about history? The Iraqis are going to see us as foreign invaders and occupiers. They're going to throw bombs, not flowers. And sure enough,
Really?
they threw bombs.
Oh God.
And then we're mired in a war for, more than a decade. Wow. Another war.
Well, this is Jack, who I was just talking about, a mutual friend of Chris Litos. So here's the question here, and I have to read this out because of the audio part of the show. Considering your experience as a whistleblower and challenges you faced, what advice would you give to individuals who possess credible information about UAPs and who are considering coming forward? Good question, Jack.
That's a very good question, and it's an important question. So I would highly recommend that you consult with an attorney who specializes in whistleblower rights. There are a bunch of them here in Washington. They may be a little bit harder to find outside of Washington, but you need somebody who's going to understand where you're coming from and is going to protect your rights and also protect you from overstepping, so that the FBI can't come in and ruin your life, or the Defense Department or the CIA or whoever else. So absolutely consult an attorney before you say anything at all publicly, and make sure that the attorney is there when you're making the revelation. You'll never, ever regret doing that.
Now, I believe David Grush went about it the right way, as far as I know. I don't know how much you know about that.
Yeah.